Who were you before you lost your wild self?
That's what we're helping you explore on the Tend Her Wild podcast.
Through questions and tools around how best to listen to your inner voice,
rewild ourselves, and live the most authentic life where we thrive instead of survive.
I'm Betsy.
And I'm Kate.
And we're so glad you've joined us for this episode. Hello, Tender Wild podcast listeners. It's Kate and I today with a topic that we brainstormed many months ago as something we needed to talk about. We decided we want to talk about what are the barriers to being a wild woman. And then we realized there really aren't any barriers.
Nope, there are not.
Because the wildish instinct is innate in all of us. It's not just in some of us. We just get conditioned out of it. So then we're like, oh, so it's not about barriers. It's about when did we get severed
from our wild self.
From our wild self. And so that's what we're going to explore and talk about today.
We've talked with so many women on this podcast and with each other about our stories. And so by doing this exercise, it really makes you think about all the moments in your life where a little bit more of you was severed.
Yeah. And it's not usually just one big severing.
Nope.
It's little by little, we keep getting pulled out of this natural connection. And sometimes there are big severings when we're like, oh, now it's
sure.
But we do see that it's over time, we keep getting pulled away from our true instincts.
Yes.
So the big one that we start with is
patriarchal systems.
Yeah.
Which we know that the patriarchy was actually not around for much of human existence. It really didn't show up till about, I think, 10,000 BC. And so when we think about these ideas and these systems that have been created, they're inherently in that was this idea that women and children were more like property.
Yeah.
And so if you think back to that, it really is, there's a through line to how so many of the systems that we developed, women were subjugated because of that. And children. And I think even in today's world, we're certainly seeing that happen. And so it harms, as they often say, the patriarchy actually harms all of us.
Yeah.
And, all aspects of our society and people deserve to kind of be their authentic selves and be able to show up in society. And so our systems have really created these hierarchies that have made that hard for so many of us to be able to navigate. And
we think there's a couple aspects of the patriarchy that really have sort of cut us off from this wild essence. And one of the first ones is that it sort of teaches us to perform.
Yeah.
And you said, oh, I got a story about this.
Yeah. I mean, I have many stories, but the one that always jumps out at me when I was 22, 23, no, actually about 24 years old in law school. And I was interviewing for my first job. So I was in law school, third year. I had interviews lined up about my first suit, and I was going into this interview, and I met with
black suit.
It was navy.
Navy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And I met with the career person prior to going into my interview to learn more about the firm and to talk through some things. And I had gotten married in the beginning of my third year. So I was wearing a wedding ring. And so we have a conversation about the firm. And then she says to me, hey, I really advise you to take your wedding ring off before you go into this interview. And I remember first thinking she was joking.
Mm.
And then realizing, no, she's serious. And she's like, they're just not going to be able to take you seriously. They're going to assume you'll want a family and get pregnant and leave. And so I remember that pit in my stomach of, wow, I need to perform. I need to walk in there. I can't mention being married. I was thinking of all the things I couldn't say
Mm,
and how I needed to walk in there and be someone else.
mm.
And I did. I took it off, and I didn't end up even wanting the job, which is kind of ironic. Had I been myself,
Your instincts were a bit intact still at that
yeah, they
point.
were. They were. But yeah, it was a performance. And it breaks my heart a little bit because this woman was actually trying to look out for me.
Mhm.
She wasn't doing it to be
Yeah.
mean. She thought it would help me. But yeah, it was very much a performance, and I was not walking in as
Yeah.
myself.
So that system, that legal
Mhm.
system and how it was set up in terms of becoming a partner in a firm,
Yep.
very patriarchal system.
Very top down,
Yeah, you had to
billable
perform. There had to
hours.
be a certain way.
Yeah. Do you have any?
Yeah, I think one of the patriarchal systems that another thing it can do to us, it can definitely, I think patriarchy has taught us all how to disconnect from the body. But I was trying to think about what system taught me that. And I actually think it was some religious systems
Mhm.
that I was raised in, that I was taught that the body was inherently sinful and that it could get you into trouble. And you couldn't really trust it. Like, as a young person, don't trust those feelings that you might get in your body with your boyfriend or so
Right.
so there was a whole mistrust and trying to repress feelings in the body. And then I think how it evolved for me into my college years is then you can learn to control it
Mhm.
and optimize it. So just such a patriarchal systemic idea, like just oppress it, control it, learn how to make it be everything that it can be,
Right.
which was inherently harmful to me, very
Yes.
harmful to me.
And the whole idea of we're so disconnected to our own bodies because we're externally looking at what we're supposed to
Yes.
look like and be like,
Yes.
in our what our bodies are supposed to look like. And
Yes.
so that for me very much happened in my 20s.
Yeah, and I am thinking an image is coming to mind for me right now of Victoria's Secret, which of
Mm.
course we know was started by a man,
Yeah. It's not a
run
secret
by a
anymore.
man, right? There's a whole song about this.
Mhm.
But that I would get a gift certificate for Christmas every year from an aunt and uncle to Victoria's Secret. And that would be like a big deal to go. But thinking about as a young, 14, 15-year-old girl, the images and the pictures and, total sexualization of undergarments and
Mhm.
how they should make you feel and look and all of that. And just again, the conditioning
Oh,
and how it's still happening.
still
It's
happening.
still happening.
Yeah.
What's another patriarchal
So
system?
it really creates this separateness instead of our interconnectedness. So we're such an individualized society,
Yeah.
and systems like to keep us that way.
Yeah.
I believe because if we're interconnected, we might question things. So keep
We might come
everybody
together and
in
help each
their
other out,
yes,
empower each other.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, again, that idea that the feminine is all about connection and community. And so our systems are really not built for that. I think probably kind of
Yeah.
purposeful, which is another way to control people. It's easier to control one person than a group because a group might actually be more unwieldy and
Yeah.
more difficult. So, yeah, I think it definitely creates this idea of separation. And then we live in our own heads and we don't have the connection to each other. We learn so much from each other, especially as women, when we talk about things
Yeah.
and talk through things.
Yeah.
And that's our nature.
Yeah.
So this takes us away from our nature.
Agreed. And it messes with our relationships. So that's the other
Mhm.
big piece of patriarchy that I have been working around a lot lately is that patriarchal systems teaches us about there's a certain role that you need to play. There's one person who's in power. It can often set up this thing, as you said earlier, like women and children. We were the possession of our spouses. And so, how does anyone have a healthy relationship in the midst of such a dysfunctional system, patriarchy, that we've all just been swimming in? We've all just been enmeshed in.
Mhm.
So how do we get to these relationships that are actually more mutually beneficial and
Egalitarian.
egalitarian and equal, and you're not my possession, right? I mean, even thinking about, I'm going through the midst of this divorce, I'm going to be taking back my maiden name. And that's so empowering for me because it
Yeah.
feels like actually this is who I am. But it's such a subtle distinction. But like it took on the name of my spouse. Like, why did I do? Like,
I
I
know.
to this day even question, like, why did I do that? Like, it did make me feel like more like I was his, or I have his family name versus like my family
Mhm.
name. But this is again sort of a piece of this system that we've all
Yeah, and
just been raised under.
that's right, and those traditions are very deep.
Yes.
For you and I during that time to have said we're keeping our names would have been kind of controversial.
I actually remember wanting to and bringing this up to both my partner at the time and even family, and getting a lot of pushback
Yeah.
around that. And it's so funny. The pushback was, well, someday when you have kids, that's going to be
Mhm.
very confusing for them.
Yep.
And it's funny, like
That was
that
the
might not have
base.
even happened, but
Right.
that was sort of the piece, that the controlling piece again for me, of like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I better think about that.
So I have an interesting story about that. I was again graduating from law school right after I got married, and I said, I want my last name on my graduation certificate.
Yeah.
I want it red. And to do that, I had to go through a second name change after my marriage
Oh,
to
wow.
make my last name my middle name so that it would appear on
Your
my
diploma.
diploma. And yeah, and to this day, I'm Catherine Elwood Moreland, which allowed me
What was your middle name that you gave
Anne.
up? Oh, yeah, Catherine Ann.
Yeah. But to me, it was more important to have that surname. And I have no brothers. So I remember thinking,
Yeah.
who's going to carry this on if I don't?
Yeah.
So yeah, it even in our 20s back then, we knew inherently our instincts were this is not right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was the way the
Yeah.
world was. And I think, I look at my daughter and her friends, there's a different generation that looks at this and is there's way more women keeping their name.
Totally. All right. So patriarchy, huge thing that severs us from our wildness, even though
Mhm.
it's still in there the whole time. Definitely, these systems have severed us from remembering this wild natural essence. All right. So, another thing that severs us from this wildest instinct is this experience of trauma that so many women have gone through. I mean, the statistics are like 1 out of 3 women have
And that's
some kind
probably
of trauma,
big trauma.
big T trauma. Yeah.
We all
Yeah.
have little t.
Exactly. But in the book, Women Who Run with the Wolves, Dr. Estes talks about how when a woman has been injured, then it's almost like she loses contact with her instincts and her intuition. And so she's then much more easily, quote, lured, is how Dr. Estes talks about it, by these promises of ease or marital happiness or various pleasures, that somehow she gets lured by what looks like maybe the easy path or more security, or, oh, this relationship is going to bring me eternal love. And so that trauma somehow prevents us from actually being able to really see things clearly. And I think this is a big part of my
Mm.
story, that I had this early trauma that happened to me when I was quite young. It was sort of repressed, but it also definitely was cutting me off from these very natural, intuitive instincts that I had. And I can look back now, you know, hindsight is, what do they say?
2020.
2020. I can look back and be like, oh, you didn't catch that. You didn't catch the red flags. There was a naivete or a gullibility around you. What was that from? I do think that partially it's from early trauma that literally cuts you off at your knees from these instincts trust. And I think I still have the instincts, but I didn't trust them
Right.
in the same way that I might have if there hadn't been this trauma that was sort of all muddied up with
Yeah, and it
life.
also a little bit of not kind of processing and walking through sitting in the emotion and the experience? We're, like, kinda quickly looking for, "Okay, who can make this right for me
Mhm,
externally?"
mhm.
And instead of kinda sitting with our own instincts and our own understanding of what happened and what it means for
Sure.
us, because I do feel like sometimes we don't wanna sit in the uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
As a child, you didn't have
Yeah,
the
there was
option of
no
wanting to do
option.
that.
Yeah, there was no option.
But as adults, like, sometimes we just don't wanna feel it, and so it's
Mhm.
easier to look for the ease out in the world and
Yeah. And it's all the golden trinkets of the world that I love that word lure, can lure us in,
Mhm.
right? Be they something on Instagram or,
Right.
there's
Yeah.
all these things to focus our attention on that can catch us and keep us in this place of disconnect from, yeah, our instincts.
So the next way we get severed is this idea of being too nice and too compliant. And so Clarissa Pinkola Estés says,
Check, check.
yeah, this early training to be nice causes women to override, again, their intuitions. They're actually purposefully taught to submit to the predator. And I love this. Imagine a wolf mother teaching her young to be nice in the face of an angry ferret or a wily diamondback rattler. Mother wolf would never do
But
that.
but it's interesting. I mean, we just did a episode on mothers, and God bless it, we love our mothers. We were mothered well.
Mhm.
We talked about that afterwards. So we're like, we had similar experiences, and we had mothers that were both present with us, and
Yeah.
but I was absolutely taught to be nice.
Oh, sure.
That was so wired into me. That was not only an implicit but an explicit message. Like, you just are nice. Choose be nice to everyone.
Always.
Watch what you say the kind words. And so, and maybe that's a common lesson that we teach our young girls is to be nice, to play nice. And yet this teaching
Suggests.
is suggesting that it totally being nice will sever us from our truth and maybe our capacity to protect ourselves.
Right. I'm thinking about examples when we're nice to people when our instincts are maybe a stranger and our instincts are like, don't, you shouldn't be talking to that person, but you're supposed to be nice. So you respond to their question or
Yeah.
whatever, which can make you unsafe. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that is deeply embedded, the niceness, the nice girl. And we were praised for
Praised
that.
for it. So what do you think is the alternative to being nice? Like, I'm thinking about raising my 14-year-old
Yeah.
daughter, and that I don't want her to be nice to everyone. She's actually better at it than I am.
Yeah.
She's already has some instincts in her that she's not ignored, but what's the opposite of being nice or compliant?
I actually think it is teaching our daughters to trust their intuition,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
is different. It's even if that means you're not gonna be
You're
nice or
going to
hang
reject
back,
someone
yeah,
or yeah.
it's okay because your intuitions serve you well.
Yeah.
And so the opposite to me is just teaching the power of
Of
intuition
intuition.
and the
Don't ignore it.
right, and that it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
And giving them permission to trust their intuition at the expense of being nice
Yeah.
and saying to them, "You did the right thing."
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And that there are situations that it's actually really important not to be nice.
right.
I don't think I ever heard that one growing
I
up.
didn't either for sure.
All right. So another thing that severs us, and it ties so beautifully in with this idea of being too nice, is people pleasing.
Mm.
And Dr. Estes says, why do women keep trying to bend and fold themselves into shapes that are not theirs? I must say, from years of clinical observation of this problem, that most of the time it's not because of some deep seated masochism or a malignant dedication to self destruction. More often, it's just because the woman simply doesn't know any better,
Mhm. It's the story of my life, I think.
right? Why
She
do we keep trying to bend and fold ourselves? It's like we don't know that we don't have to do that.
but our systems say that's how we are going to be successful.
Yeah, and how we get ahead.
How we get ahead, how we earn our place in the world, because essentially
You
the
took
message
your
is
wedding ring off at your interview and
shape-shifting,
Mhm.
my real story. And part of me that, almost made me feel shame, honestly, right?
Shame that you were married.
Yeah. I mean, I was
Yeah.
25 years old, but yeah, like that was something. And to think, and I've told my husband this, who's also a lawyer, that would be a signal to affirm if a man is married that he is
Solid and
steady, not going anywhere,
yeah.
right? And so the
Yeah.
opposite is true.
It's fascinating.
Mhm.
Fascinating. Well, okay, so we're just gonna say it that maybe we didn't know any better, that we didn't have to bind or fold or bend ourselves. But now we do.
Right.
So no more bending and
No,
folding.
no more bending and folding. Absolutely not. And then the last one is probably my favorite.
Mine too, hands down.
It is the fear we have of our own power. And there's so much literature around the subject of women's power. And Clarissa says, I want to always exclaim, Mother of God. So many women themselves are afraid of women's power. It's not that men are afraid
It's
of our
not
power.
just men who are afraid of women's power.
We
It's
are
women.
also afraid of our power. So, for the old feminine attributes and forces are vast and they are formidable. It is understandable that the first time they come face to face with the old wild powers, both men and women take one anxious look and make tracks.
Yeah.
And we
Totally.
see them heading off like that's too scary.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of the idea of the feminine power
Yeah.
a little bit too of our innateness and our essence as women. And there's the feminine is power. You've always said that, right?
Yes. And it's wild and it's
Uncontrollable.
unpredictable and nonlinear.
And it scares us too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
It
we start
scares men and it scares women
that's
as
right.
well.
It scares us as well. And then we are scared then of other women's power.
Yeah.
So
Are you, I'd like to hear from you. Are you scared? Do you sense your own power and do you think you're scared of it
I,
at this point?
I do. But now I'm more aware of it. I'm more aware of my fear of when I'm taking a big chance or I'm putting myself out there. And I have to do a lot of self talk and say, you got this. Like it may not work out, but put
Mhm.
yourself out there. But
Mhm.
I have to be intentional about it because
Mhm.
it's still very deep in me. Even and especially now working for myself, there's no one else around for me to, I guess, be accountable. And so I have to be accountable to
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a muscle. I think it's like the more you do it, and I also feel like it's my responsibility. I continue to want to try to lift other women up as well and see their power
Mhm.
because I think that in some ways, if we can do that instead of judging and being critical,
Yeah.
that we can own what's ours and what innately ours and then compliment and see
Yeah.
other women.
Yeah.
That helps me. But do you? Do you feel
Oh,
like
God, yes. I'm terrified of my power. And it's like there's moments I can feel it and I can see it. And well, you actually, I have an example of this. You were with me in Greece.
Mhm.
And there was one day that I was teaching on a goddess named Kali, who's all about power.
Mhm.
And the power that was surging through my system as I was teaching on this terrified me. I was like, what is going on? I'm feeling this power. I'm feeling this fire. I had to go swim in the cold ocean afterwards to cool myself off. And then I was all shaken up by tapping into feminine power because the fear is, what is it going to require of me? How is my life going to have to change if I really align with it? And then for me, the biggest one is in who's not going to like me?
Right.
Who is going to reject me? Who is going to push me away because I'm standing in my power?
And do you remember? I remember specifically women on that retreat who were like, that was so powerful.
Yeah.
They saw that in you
Yeah.
and you were almost modeling it which scared you,
Totally.
but the people there needed that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were not judging you.
Mm-hmm.
You were empowering them by modeling it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the other lesson, is that when we do step into our power, that feels natural, even if it's scary, but
Yeah.
you know it's in you. The gift to everyone else is you can do that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? We can't expect others to do it if we can't do it ourselves.
So to me, it feels like the moral of the story is that our own power will scare us. Feminine power does scare us. It scares men. It scares women. It scares all of us. And yet that's not like, if we can acknowledge and know, oh yeah, it's going to be scary to be in your power, but do it anyway. Like you said, I'm conscious of it now. That's what will help us through. So that the fear isn't inherently problematic unless it stops us from moving into our power or utilizing our power for good in the world.
Absolutely. And fear is,
It's always going to be there.
successful people that step into their power are not fearless.
Yeah.
They have fear, but they do it anyway.
Yeah. There you go.
And so,
oh, well, that's the mic drop of the day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we wish for all of you moments of recognizing when you need to return to your essence and your wildness and your inner power. And
by the way, this is a great time of year, spring into early summer, to rewild. It's kind of a natural time of year when the whole world is getting more wild. The greens are coming up. And so it's actually a great time for us to all experiment with what that means. And I think the first step, as we've hopefully talked about today, is to acknowledge where you've been severed. The wild's in you. You don't have to go look for it anywhere. It's already there.
And the world needs it.
And the world needs it.
All of our wild right now.
Yeah.
So
go out there and wild it up, however it looks for you.
Thanks, Betsy.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks for joining us today. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. Come back and rewild with us again next week.